Here's one of the most common questions that we're asked about the RSNA teaching file system. And it kind of goes like this. We love the software. It really looks great. A lot of interesting features. However, I already kind of have a teaching file. And it may not have all the features that are already in the RSNA teaching file system, but I've assembled a whole lot of cases. And I might have done it in a very simple way. And what a lot of people have done is basically in their daily clinical work maintain a folder with a lot of nested subfolders inside of it with a lot of interesting images that they may grab during a clinical day, save it on their desktop, maybe put it on a USB stick, keep it in their pocket, and as they work every day, maybe save a few images in there. And I'll show you what I kind of mean. Here's a little sample where you basically might keep a large folder. In this case, I've got a folder with 3 general categories: brain, ENT, and spine. And then in each of those 3 categories, I've got a disease category: infection, in this case primary neoplasia of the brain, and vascular disease of the brain. And then in each one of these subfolders, there's a folder that has a specific case, like in this case a colloid cyst of the third ventricle, in this case a cystic astrocytoma, and in each one of them there are the needed images. And this is great, and this is a great way to kind of keep and catalog cases and keep them in your pocket or whatever else. But the question that everybody asks is, now that I've spent all this time collecting hundreds or maybe thousands of cases and I keep them on my little USB drive, do I have to go through this whole process of, quote, authoring onto the RSNA teaching file system? And do I have to invest all that time in order to do it? And the answer to this is you could if you really wanted to spend that time, but the reality is there's a terrific little utility built into the teaching file system, a real gem known as the zip service. And the zip service will basically allow you to take your entire teaching file, feed it to the RSNA MIRC teaching file system, and it will consume it and turn it into a web-enabled teaching file that is data-driven, which you can share with a lot of people. And it's very simple to do. Basically, what you need to do is you take your entire teaching file folder, and the only thing that you need to do is to turn it into a zip file or an archive file. And the way to do that in the Windows system, you can do it on the Mac OS, is to right click and go to send to, and what you want to do is send it to a compressed or zip folder. And what the operating system will do is we'll take all those individual files, compress them, and turn them into one large archive file, which is basically right here. So now we have our large archive file. We can go to our teaching file system, which right now, as you can see, has no teaching cases in it at all. I'm logged into the system, and I'm logged in as an author, so I can access the zip service, which is accessible right here on the left pane. Clicking on the zip service gives me access to another window that is pre-populated now with my information, but if this is the first time you're actually using it, it'll ask you to put in this information: who you are, how you can be reached, and so forth. And the one really important thing that you need to do is to say, do you want to make these cases public or not? If you do, you need to put a little asterisk inside the read privilege key, and then go down here and choose the file. In this case, we're going to choose our zip file. And our zip file is right here. And now, all I need to do is press Submit the Zip File button, and we're off to the races. The software responds and says it's received the file, queued it for processing, and let's see what it's done with it. Let me slide this down here so we can see the magic. Now if I click on my cases, all those cases that we were just looking at are now consumed by the teaching file system, and all the information is there. It's cataloged by diagnosis. We can open them up individually, see the images, see the thumbnails, and so on. You can search for the individual cases if necessary. And if you even want to, you could go right into the idea of running a conference, showing all your cases as an unknown case conference through the Case Navigator module, and flip through all the individual cases and have yourself a conference. And as you notice, this took a matter of seconds to do this, to consume your teaching file, Granted, of course, if you had hundreds or maybe thousands of cases, it might take a little bit longer, but this is probably the quickest route to take an entire conventional teaching file and convert it into an RSNA teaching file system. And now this is web-enabled. You can supplement these cases. You can go into the menus that are in here. You can add annotations. You can edit the information, add pathologic information, and so on, and additional clinical information as well, and also supplement with additional images. So give it a try. It's a terrific way to get started with the teaching file system if you already have existing cases.